The Colorado State Penitentiary was established in 1871 while Colorado was still a territory. It is the oldest prison in Colorado. It was built in 1871 as a territorial prison and became a state prison in 1876 when Colorado became a state. From the 1890s until 1993, the Colorado Death Row and Execution Chamber was located at the Colorado Territorial Penitentiary. The last execution to take place there was in 1967. Join Ginger and I as we explore the Colorado Prison Museum. Don't forget to check the links in the title to see the original 1949 Canyon City movie and the Rocky Mountain PBS special. The Colorado Prison Museum project began in the early 1980s, using the former women's prison building. The women's prison was constructed in 1935. The structure is located adjacent to the east wall of the Colorado State Penitentiary that has remained an active prison since 1871 and is still being used today.
Breaking news. Canyon City, Colorado. March 2nd, 1990. 6 inmates broke out of a maximum security prison Friday, but 5 were recaptured within hours, leaving 1 man, a murderer with a gun, still at large, officials said Saturday. Prison Superintendent Benny Johnson said 6 men obtained cell keys, a pair of handguns, and a guard's uniform for the Friday breakout. Using those materials, the inmates tied up several prison officials, seized a control room, and then escaped into the prison yard through a loading dock near a food preparation area around 5:30 p.m. They ran to an outer prison fence, but were spotted by guards and came under fire from a watchtower guard. They cut the fence and dashed out, but 4 of them were captured just outside the fence. A 5th inmate, Stephen Cantrud, 20, was captured 3 hours later at a high school football stadium in Florence, a few miles southeast of Canoncity. Johnson said convict Terry Akers, 31, a convicted murderer who escaped once before and attempted to escape 2 other times, remained at large. He was believed to be hiding south of Florence, wearing a guard's uniform and armed with a handgun.
Over the years there have been many female prison wardens as well. Jennifer Hansen was sworn in as the warden of the Colorado Territorial Correctional Facility in Canyon City. Additionally, Stephanie Sandoval was sworn in as the warden of the Colorado State Penitentiary. On December 30, 1947, 12 inmates escaped the Colorado State Prison. Carl Schwartzmiller, who was a lifelong hood, led the escape attempt along with the 12 other inmates. James Mad Dog Sherbandy was coerced into joining the prison escape. He worked in the darkroom as a photographer and was used to store and hide handmade weapons. Sherbundy and the most dangerous inmates in the prison jumped the wall and fled. Warden Roy Best organized a search party. The inmates held a farmer's family hostage. During the next 61 hours, 2 inmates are killed and all but Sherbundy are apprehended. Hollywood wasted no time focusing on the dramatic events. They recreated the escape for the silver screen. The result was the movie Canyoncity. Warden Roy Best played himself in the film, with his 2 Dobermans, Chris and Ike, faithfully standing by his side. Warden Best and his wife took 12-year-old murderer Jimmy Melton into their home to live with them in 1948. Jimmy had been convicted of shooting his 16-year-old sister 12 times while she wrapped presents to place under the Christmas tree. After Warden Best's wife died, Jimmy was sent to live in Boys Town in Nebraska in 1949. That was the end of his good behavior. Jimmy was in and out of prison for the rest of his life. Roy Best was an American prison warden. He is known for his wardenship of the Colorado Territorial Correctional Facility. Best quickly earned a reputation as the most notorious warden in Colorado history. However, Warden Best made great contributions to the way prisons were run, providing training and healthcare to the prisoners to aid in their reintegration with society. He also had a separate building built to house female prisoners. The valley that encompasses Canyoncity is infamously known as Prison Valley. There are multiple state and federal prisons located in the valley, to include the most famous, adxflorance, Colorado. Infamous prisoners include Timothy McVeigh, convicted for the Oklahoma City bombing execution by lethal injection June 11, 2001. Ramzi Youssef, the mastermind behind the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, serving a life sentence plus 240 years. Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, convicted in 2019 as the head of the Mexican Sinaloa cartel, sentenced to life plus 30 years. Richard Reed, also known as the Shoe Bomber, serving 3 consecutive life sentences plus 110 years. Terry Nichols, convicted for the Oklahoma City bombing. He was sentenced to 161 consecutive life terms without the possibility of parole. Eric Rudolph, also known as the Olympic Park Bomber. He was sentenced July 18, 2005, to 2 consecutive life terms without parole. Ted Kaczynski, known as the Unabomber, sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. Kaczynski was found in his cell unresponsive with no pulse after hanging himself with a shoelace from a handicap rail. Umar Farouk Abdelmutalab, underwear bomber, attempted to detonate plastic explosives hidden in his underwear while on board Northwest Airlines Flight 253. Jakar Tsarnaev, convicted for the 2013 Boston Marathon bombing. Sentenced to death by lethal injection on 6 of 17 capital counts. Today, he continues to appeal his sentence as he waits for it to be carried out. Phantom Canyon Road spans Fremont and Teller counties. The twisting, unpaved road is covered with beautiful rock formations and forests that display beautiful colors during the fall. The road follows the route of the Florence and Cripple Creek Railroad, built in 1894 as a connection from Florence to the goldfields of Cripple Creek and Victor. The road is 29.6 miles long, running from State Route 50, just east of Canyon City, culminating in Victor City. The road has a couple of hand-cut stone tunnels and 3 elevated old steel and wooden bridges. The trip takes roughly 2 hours to complete, depending on how many stops you make. The trip offers plenty of photo opportunities. It is one of the most scenic and historic drives in Colorado. There are elevations that rise steeply above the creeks and canyons, some over 600 feet below the dusty road. There are over 500 mines that were once home to the region. If you pay attention, as you're exploring the area, you might even catch a glimpse of one of the historic and ancient mines. If you love to explore new places, you already know that there are plenty of areas located within Colorado that are filled with historic and fascinating places. From ghost towns to creepy old mines, there's certainly no shortage of areas to explore. Phantom Canyon Road is no exception. However, this Colorado road boasts more than just history, as it is also considered to be one of the most haunted places in Colorado. The trail continues to be a place teeming with wildlife. The deer don't seem to mind the legends that plague this historic road. According to several witnesses, Phantom Canyon is inhabited by the spirits of many former railroad and mine workers. The most famous of these is a uniformed 1890s prison inmate who, despite being executed a few days earlier, can still be seen walking along the former Florence and Cripple Creek Railroad Trail. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, some 1,200 workers were hired to construct the railway, difficult work that often meant blasting through rock. Over just 6 months, the crew built over 40 miles of track, including 2 tunnels and several bridges. Many times, the difficult work resulted in injuries or even death. The railway suffered accidents almost immediately. Just one day after opening, a train derailed, resulting in deaths. The tracks were eventually removed, and in 1918, the former railway was converted to a public road. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing to the channel. It doesn't cost anything and helps us to continue to explore new areas and bring those adventures back to you. Don't forget to like and share. Thank you.